my lovelies, and welcome to This is Wonder with Eyiara. And in this episode, we will be talking about identity and exploring the question, who am I? So grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, hot cocoa, a blanket, something to write with, and let's get comfy as we dive in. All right. So I hope you're all comfy and got whatever you need right now. Got your tea, got your coffee, got your notepad, got your blanket. Okay, let's dive in. So today's topic is identity, and we're exploring the question, who am I? And I'm guessing this question, you may have asked yourself this question a few times, because it's a question that comes up a lot. Like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the point of me being in this world? And I'm going to be honest, this is a question that I struggled with for a really, really, really long time. I struggled with it growing up. Well, partly because as a pastor's kid, people expect you to behave a certain way or act a certain way, dress a certain way, speak a certain way, just do certain things because you're a pastor's kid. And then as I grew older, like just the outside world, people had expectations of me based on what I looked like and what I sounded like and how I dressed and how I comported myself. So that was another kind of expectation thing put on me. And then in other ways, I found myself in various situations where I shifted and tried to fit into various spaces. So I changed my hair when I did have hair, changing my hair, changing my outfit, changing the way that I spoke so that it matched the spaces that I was in so that I could fit in and all of those things. And then I realized that, you know what, those spaces don't even want me. They don't even like me. So why am I changing and shifting for all of these people? And then realizing that after all this time of changing and shifting, I didn't really know who I was. I was trying to be something else to fit into what other people wanted, and I didn't really know who I was. And so this whole journey of discovering who I am, and it still is a journey for me. This whole journey started when I was 21, and I was living in Paris at the time. And just before I turned 21, I was 20, of course. And I had just gone through a breakup. Well, technically it wasn't a breakup because we weren't together. So technically it wasn't a breakup. Anyway, we weren't together. But in my head, in my mind, I thought we were, because we were always doing things together. And yeah, note to self. Note to self. Don't assume you're in a relationship unless it's been explicitly communicated between the both of you. Okay. Anyway, that breakup happened and it broke me internally. It broke me. Like, it made me go into a deep depression. I was questioning my life. I was questioning my existence. I was questioning what on earth I was doing in this world. I was like, who am I? I was questioning my worth. Like, am I good enough? I thought I was. I thought the person that I was good enough, but apparently it wasn't. So who is this person that I am now? What is left of me? That question, who am I, is what we'll be exploring today. And so I will be sharing a few keys that have helped me, and I hope they are of help to you too. But I will say it all boils down to the Bible. It really all boils down to the Bible. And The first key you can find in the first book of the Bible in Genesis. It is that God made me. So in trying to answer this question, who am I? I am made by God. God made me. And how do I know that God made me and I'm made by God? In Genesis 1, verse 26 to 27, I am going to read from the New Revised Standard Version, Anglicized. Here we go. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So these two verses show that God is a creator. He's the creator. And everything that God creates is good. If you go into Genesis chapter 1 and you read from verse 10, it says that after God creates things, he looks at it and he's like, this is good. This is good. And so God made me. I am made by God. And since everything that God creates is good, then that means I am good. I am a good creation. I am not a malfunction. I am not a leftover. I am good. Okay? Now let's backtrack a little bit. Yes, we've just said God made me. I am made by God. But who is God? Who is this God that made me? Who is this God that created me? To answer that question, I would invite you to do a study yourself on who God is. Maybe in your quiet time, when your time with God, your time in the mornings, in the evenings, whenever you have your time with God, I invite you to do a study on God's characteristics. Who is God? What is God like? Personally, I'm working my way through the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I'm studying the characteristics of Jesus. Because Jesus, he is the physical embodiment of God. And we can see that Jesus did only what he saw his Father do. He said so, that I only do what I see my Father do. And when we see Jesus, we've seen God, the Father, because Jesus and God are one. So that's on the side note. Who is God? What is he like? Study the Bible. Do a study on God's characteristics. Who is God? Who is Jesus? What are they like? And hopefully that answers deep for yourself to know deeper, who is this God that created me? Okay? But for now, we're going to go to another part of the Bible, another book in the Bible, which is Psalms 139. And we're going to read from verse 13 to 18. First, we're going to go through the New Living Translation, and then we're going to compare certain verses in the Passion Translation. So first off, Psalm 139, verse 13 to 18 in the New Living Translation. I'm going to read 13 to 18 through, and then we're going to dissect the different verses. All right? So here we go. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. Wow. Verse 13. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Let's pick out some words here. Delicate, inner parts, knit me together. So those words that we've just pulled out, delicate, inner parts, knit me together. That shows intention. Because you don't just start creating something delicate haphazardly. You got to have intention if you're going to make something delicate, right? And inner parts, that means precision. If you're going to make something on the inner part of something, then you got to be precise. You have to be precise because it's inside, right? So that shows me that God is intentional. All of this shows thought and care. So God is intentional. God is precise. God had a lot of thought and care when he decided to create you. It wasn't just a mishmash blob, blech, there you go. No. He was meticulous in crafting me. He was meticulous in crafting you. And like I said, it wasn't just a blech, blech kind of situation. And let's go to the other word, knit me together. Now, does anyone do knitting? Has anyone tried knitting or crochet? I haven't, but I know people who have. And it takes a lot of time. It takes concentration and focus. So what else does this show about God? It shows that God took his time when he was creating you. It shows that God was focused. It shows that God was concentrating when he created you. He wasn't distracted. He wasn't preoccupied with a billion other things to do. He was focused. He was concentrated. And he took his time when he created you. Okay? Now, let's move on to verse 15 to 16. So, this is still Psalm 139. Verse 15 to 16, now we're going to go into the Passion Translation. So it says, you even formed every bone in my body when you created me in the secret place. Carefully, skillfully, you shaped me from nothing to something. Fun fact, a human is born with about 270 bones. But as you grow into an adult, some of those bones fuse together, and when you become you are a human. When you become an adult, those bones become 206. So those 270 bones, some of them fuse, and then you end up being an adult with 206 bones. Now, this verse says, you even formed every bone in my body when you created me in the secret place. So, we've talked about God being meticulous, God being careful, God putting a lot of thought and care into you, God being, what was the word? When he knitted you together, he took his time. So here, we're seeing that God formed every bone in your body. So he wasn't careless about it. He wasn't haphazard about it. It wasn't a last-minute job for him. He actually took time. And when we look at the bones in the body, we're not even talking about the cells in the body and how many different types of cells there are in the body. We're not even talking about the organs in the body or the nerves or the arteries or how everything all functions together. This is just bones, right? And to think that God created every single bone in your body, that is precision, that is care, that is work, that is thought. And if you're a science geek, like I feel like I like to know about the body and how the body functions because it's so interesting and fascinating to me. If you look at science and if you look at what the Bible says, well, first, if you look at what the Bible says, how the Bible describes the human body and the human faculties, and then you look at what science says about the body and the world, the complexity of it all will blow your mind because it is beyond human comprehension how God is so meticulous in crafting not just the human body, the planets, the universe, the galaxies. All of it is just mind blowing. Anyway, back to the text. When we think about this, it just goes back to verse 14 of Psalm 139. Psalm 139 verse 14 in the New Living Translation says, "Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex." So who am I? I am wonderfully complex. I am wonderfully complex. Now, let's go on to verse 16. It says, "You saw who you created me to be before I became me. Before I'd ever seen the light of day, the number of days you planned for me were already recorded in your book." Now, to find out who I am, this shows that I need to go to God because He's already planned out my life. He imagined me, He brought me to life, He knew who I would be and what I would be before I even became conscious of reality. The verse says that the number of days you planned for me were already recorded in your book before I'd ever seen the light of day. So before I came into the world, God had already written stuff about me, about my life, about what I would do, about the whole time I would be on this earth for, who I would be, what I would do, the people I would meet, the experiences I would have. God already wrote that. And that just shows His intention, His care, His thought. So God knows it. In order for me to know who I am, in order for me to find out who I am, I need to go to God and ask Him. And I would invite you to do the same. Like, God, what did you write about me in your book? What do you see for me, God? Why did you create me? Who did you create me to be? Ask Him. And it doesn't have to be a super formal way. You can talk to Him the way I'm talking to you right now. Ask Him, God, what do you have in your book about me? What do you see for me? What have you written about me? What do you want for my life? And He will tell you. And just be prepared to listen and to receive and to hear how He tells you. Okay? Let's continue. Verse 17 to 18 in the Passion Translation states, "Every moment you are thinking of me. How precious and wonderful to consider that you cherish me constantly in your every thought. Oh God, your desires toward me are more than the grains of sand on every shore. When I awake each morning, you're still with me. Wow. The first line of that, it says, every single moment you are thinking of me. Well, let's unpack that line. Every single moment you are thinking of me. Number one, that shows me that God thinks, that God has thoughts. Okay? Number two, that shows me that God is always thinking about me. I am on God's mind all the time, constantly. And that would lead me to say, dare I say, God is obsessed with me. I know some people may come after me and be like, but yeah, because for me to constantly be on God's mind, it means that he cares about me. And not just cares about me, he cares deeply about me. And he cares deeply about you. And he cherishes you. And that's why you're constantly on his mind. When you think about someone, there's a level of care that you have towards them. There's a level of esteem. You hold them in high esteem, or you value them to some degree. Likewise with God, is always thinking about you. So you're not just this drop in the 8 billion people, a sea of 8 billion people that he forgets. And to think that he thinks about each and every single one of us constantly, even though there are over 8 billion people, I think, 8 billion people on this planet. And to think that he thinks of each and every single one of us constantly. And that is why he is God. So he cares. Remember that we need to go to God and ask him, who am I? He has the book about our lives. He is the creator. He created you meticulously, with purpose, with care, carefully, skillfully. He made you on purpose for a purpose. So when you think about it, God, this creator, the creator of the universe, of the galaxies, gosh, this universe has billions and gazillions of galaxies. And he was like, yeah, I want to make humans. I want to make humans in my image, in my likeness. He didn't have to, but he chose to. He wanted to. And he made us, humankind, you and me, in his image and in his likeness. And that means you're not an afterthought. You're not a last-minute decision. You weren't just put together and just splodged out just like that. You were made in his image, in his likeness. You carry his DNA. You carry his characteristics. You carry parts of God in you. Because you're made in his image and in his likeness. So you're not a mistake. You're not an accident. You are carefully crafted and meticulously put together by God to be on this planet, to be on this earth at this particular time in history. You were planned by God. He has this whole book of your life written before a single day, before you even lived out a single day. And he was meticulous in giving you the attributes that you have. So to answer the question, who am I? I am created by God. And since God created everything and whatever God creates is good, I'm good. I am wonderfully complex. I am made in God's image and God's likeness, and therefore I have the characteristics of God. And what does that mean? God is creative, therefore I am creative. God is powerful, therefore I am powerful. God is kind, therefore I am kind. God is loving, therefore I am loving. God is compassionate, therefore I am compassionate. God is generous, therefore I am generous. God is skillful, therefore I am skilled in whatever He has created me to do. Who am I? I am God's prized creation. I am precious. I am of great value. You know, when you go to the store and you see different items or the same item, let's say 2 bags or 2 pairs of shoes, and one pair of shoes is more pricey than the other pair. And you're wondering, well, they look the same. Usually, the one that's of a higher price is because it's got a brand name. It's the name that gives the pair of shoes its value, or the bag its value. The brand, the name. And do you know that God's name is on you? God's name is on you. His imprint is on you, in you. How do I know this? Because He made you in His image. He made you in His likeness. Therefore, His imprint is on you. You know, when an artist creates their work, they usually leave their signature or something that makes you recognize, oh, this is this artist, this is this artist, or this is this person, this is their work of art. You are a work of art, made specifically, meticulously, and just magnificently crafted by God, the creator of the universe. His imprint is on you. And when you realize that, it changes the way you think about yourself, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with people, the way you even talk to yourself. And that means that people's opinions of you, about you, they don't carry that much weight anymore. Because you know who you are and whose you are. Because you have that imprint of God. And I know that it's not a one-time instantaneous thing that just happens. You realize, oh yeah, God made me. I'm made by God. God's imprint is on me. It's a process. It's a process of renewal. Romans 12:2 talks about renewing our minds. So it is a process of renewal and refinement and going deeper in that understanding that God made me. He put time, He put effort, He put skill into making me. He was purposeful in making me, in creating me. He was purposeful in creating you. He put time into making you. He put effort into creating you. And the more you realize that, the more that changes everything. The more that changes everything. Now, as you go into your day, into your week, into your evening, I want you to sit with this thought. God made me. God made me. Sit with it. And then I want you to reflect on this question. What does it mean for me that God made me? What does it mean for me that God made me? Like, how does it affect my life? What does it look like for me? How does it affect the choices that I make, how I live my life? What does it mean for me that God made me? And you can journal about it, you can paint about it, you can create music to it in response to that journal prompt. But I want you to reflect on that question. What does it mean for me that God made me? And I hope it changes something in you. I hope it lights a fire, a spark, and begins to do a work of transformation in you. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of This is a Wonder, and I hope it has encouraged you. I hope it has blessed you. So please like, comment, subscribe, share to everyone or people that you don't know as well, because it helps to get the message across to more people. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Remember that you are a wonder. You are a wonder. And I will see you in the next episode.